What if some people come together and decide they want to ban crypto?
It's not something that you will be able to ban. It has now gone into mass adoption. It's a mode in which future financial infrastructure is being built.
Warren Buffett, he's been very vocal about not favoring crypto.
Yes.
When you meet people like him, what worries them the most about crypto?
I don't think it's something that they worry about. I think it's something that they have not spent enough time, energy to understand. If you look at BlackRock, Mr. Larry Fink, CEO, for the longest time he was a sharp critic. And then the more he understands it, now he has turned into a keen supporter.
Isn't crypto essentially an alternative for the dollar?
I don't think it's going to be an alternative. Crypto is an asset class. In many instances, extremely useful and the best form of transfer of value globally.
You had $100 and you can only put in banks, governments, or technology companies. Which one do you think will give you maximum return?
I would say that in the first instance, it's always about the technology. Then the government and the institutions will come into play.
If some builder is watching you right now who is probably in early 20s, what one specific thing they should look at to create wealth in next 10, 20, 30 years?
I think it's important for them first understand the different landscape, do deep dives, focus on building things that will create value, that's sustainable, that has utility about it, there's strong use cases, because these are things that people will continue to use, they create value for the world, for yourself. So those are the areas that they should focus on.
Is there any specific sector that you believe is going to see the disruption in next 5-10 years?
I really believe that.
Before we start, I want to ask you if someone's watching you for the first time,
Yep.
and they have no clue who you are, okay? And they're like this 1% audience who has never even Googled you. How would you explain them? Who are you? What do you do?
Well, currently I'm the co-CEO of Binance. Binance is the largest crypto ecosystem in the world. We are a financial super app. So beyond crypto, we offer our investors exposure, ability to take positions across a suite of products, right? It's not only crypto, it's commodities, it's petrochemicals, it's precious metals, it's US stocks, it's pre-IPO counters as well. And the product suite keep expanding. So we have more than 220 million customers globally and expanding very quickly. So we are part of the global financial infrastructure.
Nice. But who is Richard?
Well, Richard is, I'm trained. I spent more than 2.5 decades in financial. By now, I've been in financial services for more than 30 years. I started my career with the Central Bank of Singapore. Then I was in Singapore Exchange and became CEO of Abu Dhabi Global Market, which is a financial services regulator. So my background historically has been in traditional finance, has been in regulations. I got to discover crypto right about 2017. And the more I deep dive into it, I realized that this is going to be the future of financial services, future of money, right?
Nice. So if, let's say you've spent like about 2.5 decades, which is 25, 26 years in finance.
Yes. No, by now I spent more than 31 years in finance.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So
finance.
it's 31 years now. So if somebody is just waking up from a coma of 31 years,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
And has no clue what's going on in the world, right?
Right.
What would shock them the most about money today?
Well, the concept of financial institutions and the concept of money are rapidly changing, right? So, I grew up in an era where it's a brick and mortar world, right? So if you want to set up a bank account, you have to go to a bank, you need your thumbprint on the passbook. There's no widespread ATM there. You need to do a withdrawal, you queue up in the branch, right? So the innovation has happened a bit slower throughout the past 2 decades, but it has happened to quite a fair bit of extent. But blockchain technology, crypto, has the ability to transform all that. So if you rethink from now on the future of financial services, and given today's tools, architecture, infrastructure, and I say build a new bank, build a new securities firm, build a new asset manager, you'll not be the model that you see in the past, right? It will be something that's totally different, because with the usage of blockchain and AI, the future of how a bank provider, a payment provider, exchange look like will be totally different. So many things can be fundamentally changed, right? We are living in a very legacy system that has plenty of challenges. If you do a bank transfer today, cross-border, it takes 2 to 3 days. It takes huge costs, right? So if you look at, for example, India has more than 100 billion of remittance, right, in any given year. And if you look at the fees that the bank charge, 6 to 7%, so you're taking off $6 to $7 billion that, that can be substantially saved and given to your loved ones, to your families, to the vendors that you need to pay. But if you do that via stablecoin and crypto, right, those money can go to your loved ones, your vendors. The money can reach the end recipient in an instantaneous basis. Payments can be done. There's certainty of how much capital a corporate needs, right? Instead of holding large amount of capital, if you have certainty of when the money is going to reach the end recipient, you don't have to hold so much capital, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a much more efficient way of doing. But this chain is replicated in every aspect of financial services. So if you rethink the future of financial services and if you rebuild the future of financial services, is going to look very, very different, even from what we see today, right? So stablecoin is just starting to take off with clarity provided by the Genius Act. And many other countries around the world are now embracing stablecoin and coming out with clear legislation. I mean, if you think about it, one of the biggest problem with trading today is you can only trade within a certain amount of hours a day, right? Whether it's 9 to 5, whether it's 10 to 4, depending on the countries you are in, it's held by, it's constrained. And people don't realize the amount of liquidity risk that institutions, the corporates, the retail have to bear. Once the market closes, so to say, right? If there's anything that's happening in the world in terms of news flow, you can't take on new positions. You can't hedge your risk. You can't offset your position, right? So you're bearing a lot of risk until tomorrow the market opens and the price point opens at a totally different level. So if you think about it, isn't it better if you are allowed to do 24/7, manage your risk effectively, whether it's through human, whether it's through AI intervention, etc. So that is what crypto has already offered. 24/7 trading from the start, right? So the future world, in terms of how all these things are being managed, will be very different. Many securities companies in the world, exchanges, still operate on T+2, right? So during that 2 days of clearing and settlement, there's a lot of risk that's being bought. In crypto, we have already moved to atomic settlement. It's instantaneous because the technology provides for that. So if you think about it, there are so many facets within financial services that will be transformed very drastically. Once you have more and more institutions, and once you have more new fintechs, more new providers coming into the market, providing much better alternative of how financial infrastructure will look like, okay, the transformation will take place very quickly.
See, all of this, to you, it sounds very obvious, right? And because you're in this world, you understand this. And probably for 5-6% people in the world also, this sounds obvious. And that's why they're betting towards this future, right? But for a lot of people, majority of people, they still believe in the old way of money.
Yeah.
That money is still powerful. Yes. That money is still the most important source for them, right? Yes. So what do you think? Why people still hold on to it? Or rather, I would say, what is that one lie about money that people still believe today?
You're brought up in the world, right? That the only sensible way, or the only way that you can transfer money is you go up to a remittance house or you go to the bank and say that this is how I send money to the... Firstly, is habit. Right? Secondly, you are not open up to new areas of growth and new areas that you can do that much quicker. And thirdly, is structural. Right? There are a lot of structural impediments. Even today, the way financial institutions are engineered, they're structured in a certain fashion, right? In the front office, there's middle office, there's back office. Middle and back office do certain functions. They have to go through reconciliation. They have to go through accounting, settlement, right? But if another competing bank come through, or another big bank, to say that, look, I'm going to do middle and back office very different. I'm not going to do reconciliation because I don't have to. Once we blockchain technology, everything is immutable. So reconciliation become irrelevant, right? So once all those structural changes come through, both in terms of the financial institutions itself, but in terms of financial landscape, right? So with stablecoin coming through and growing so rapidly, with real assets tokenization coming through, so even the SWIFT of the world are forced to look at it and say, hey, look, we're going to support blockchain, right? So it's also habit and it's also literacy and awareness. But once a lot of all these things come true, then people realize through media, through education, through your friends to say, instead of paying 6 to 7%, you can pay 0.1%. Isn't this much more superior? But that change, especially depending on demographics, may come through differently. So if you talk about to a person 20 to 30 years old, digitally savvy, right? Using mobile most of the time, they know how it works. They will be the first embracer of this, definitely. And then if you go up the age group in the value chain, those change will take a slightly more time, right, for them to embrace it. But it will come true because technology will come through. It's just like initially when internet came through, did the embracement take place overnight? No, right? It'll take a period of time. It'll take for mobile penetration, internet penetration to take place. So that penetration will take place. So it's a matter of speed.
Let's say if you had $100.
Yes.
And you can only put in banks, governments, or technology companies for the future who can either bring change and actually end up giving you a lot of power, compounding, or whatever you want to put it.
And you're saying that $100 is from a private investor, or
like from a private investor, just you?
You cannot afford to put $100 in the government. Government has its own funding and has its own mechanism, right? There's no way that you can put.
Let's say all three of you had one stock and equally priced $100. Which one do you think will give you maximum return on the scale of power, not in scale of actually money?
I would say that in the first instance, it's always about the technology, right? Without the technology, without showing the world the capabilities, right, the rest may not follow, right? So, like it or not, regulations is always half a step, one and half steps behind, because the regulations can never keep up with changes and the new technological advances. So it's very, very important that we place, the emphasis on technology, on the use case, on the utility. How do we transform the world? Same that you're seeing in AI. I mean, the regulations don't come in first, right? Same that you're seeing in quantum computing, etc. Because you have to prove that this has the ability to take root, this has the ability to transform and present a much better use case than what is the current state, right? Without that, the government doesn't know what it's looking at, right? The financial institutions are not understanding what it's going to look at. So I would say in the first instance, it's always the technology. The technology is the most important part. You have to show what is the future state, what is the use case, what's the utility, right? How do you bring about the development? How is it a technology that can bring about betterment for the people, right? So those are extremely important. Then the government and the institutions will come into play.
Warren Buffett, right? And he's been very vocal about not favoring crypto.
Yes.
Right? Charlie Munger and him, they both have said it multiple times in multiple occasions.
Yes.
Right? So when you meet people like him or people who believe in that kind of philosophy, what worries them the most about crypto and this new asset class?
I don't think it's something that they worry about. I think it's something that for the skeptics, is something that they have not spent enough time, energy to investigate and to understand, right? So for the longest time, some of the largest money manager in the world, some of the largest financial institutions are skeptics and critics, right? So if you look at BlackRock, Mr. Larry Fink, CEO, for the longest time, he was a sharp critic of crypto. And then the more he understands it, now he has turned into a keen supporter. Jamie Dimon, one of the sharpest critics for the longest time, for 7 years has been coming out to say negative things about crypto. He has changed his stance, right? The more he understands it and what this technology represents and how it can transform financial landscape. Now, JP Morgan is trying to work with, for example, DBS on tokenized deposits, which is an important use case for cryptography, for blockchain as well, right? So they are starting to embrace it in a very, very big way. So it's about that awareness, about understanding, it's about deep dive and knowing the technology and what it can bring and how it can shape the future world.
Do you think one of the reasons for a lot of these people to change their stance is about dollar devalue?
Well,
like everybody keeps saying that dollar is dying.
There are many people that may subscribe to that view. I actually don't. Right?
You don't?
I don't. And I can explain to you why, right? I think there are countries that want to move away from dollar denominance. I think that's a fact. And that fact has been in existence for a long period of time, right? But for that to come true, you need several elements to come into play, right? So today, if you look at globally, which is not only a reserve currency, but a safe haven currency, essentially there's just US dollars, right? So why are we in this current state? Because the US dollars is used as a denomination for majority of all the trade flows, right? So global trade flows is denominated. You have a war and infrastructure under the existing system, pretty much controlled by the US financial system, right? If you look at just US equities alone, it accounts for close to 60-70% of the equity value of the world, right? If you want to do a fundraising, right, at high valuation for a tech company, where do you go to? The US market, right? So again, because of all that different parts of the ecosystem, are you able to move quickly? No. Would all the different countries want to come out with their own solutions? Definitely, right? So for example, CBDCs is what the countries wanted to do to also try to de-risk from US currency. But that will take some time, right? And whether those experiments are going to be used, is going to be transformational, it really depends on what is being embarked in those experimentations.
True, but then isn't crypto essentially an alternative for the dollar?
Well, I
say crypto, but let's say Bitcoin.
I don't think it's going to be an alternative for, I mean, if you look at most of the stable coins today, it's still denominated in US dollars, right? So crypto is an asset class, right? It is, in many instances, extremely useful and the best form of transfer of value, right? Globally, right? But the transfer of value has to be denominated in something. So I don't see crypto as that. And the crypto usage goes way more beyond just a mode of transfer of that. It's a store of value used in most instances. It's a mode of payment. It's a mode in which future financial infrastructure is being built. It's a mode that really facilitates 24/7 settlement, global asset tokenization, and many. And the use cases are being developed as we speak. In the DeFi space, there are so many new different projects. So in the payment space, again, in the RW space, that has grown by 25 times in the last year alone. The script is just being written at this point in time. There are so many strong use cases coming through. So it's just not one dimensional.
Crypto is giving a lot of freedom to people, right?
Yes.
There's not going to be a bank in the middle or no government in the middle or no charge, which is 6-7%, essentially comes down to 0.1%, right? So it's like a lot of freedom for people to not put their trust into one institution, right? But that's also a gateway and freedom for let's say, a scammer or a dictator or a trafficker to just attack an individual. So maybe this technology, which is empowering a lot of freedom, is at the same time empowering a lot of bad actors. So do you think about that sometimes, that both sides are just getting empowered at the same time with the
bad
technology?
Actors, same for with any technology, right? So just let me elaborate a lot more. The scammers, the fraudsters has existed for the longest time within financial services. I don't know whether you do this, you receive this in India, but in Singapore, we receive a lot of scam calls. People, and there are even people masquerading as our prime minister asking for transfer from banks. And one unfortunate individual has been scammed to transfer $4.9 million if you look at the press article, right? So scams, fraudsters exist in any situation, right? Especially the advent of technology such as AI, right? People have to be very, very cautious, right? So there are areas that we need to continue to invest in, both in the traditional financial institutions to provide enough guardrails, right? But for our users, for the global users, whether they are users of financial institution or crypto, they have to do a lot of understanding, research. Don't trust all these things coming true, right? Have an independent mind. Don't just trust. I mean, normally the scammers play up to emotions to say that, if you don't do this, there's either a risk, right? You have to give me access, otherwise your account will be, accessed by other people, etc. So I'm trying to secure your opportunity is too good to miss, right? I'm going to offer you how many % return, etc. So whatever it is, you have to be prudent and be cautious in whatever format that's coming through. So it's not limited, right? Unlike what you say in crypto, it happens all the time in financial institutions. So I think that's one. But as a responsible entity, we have built in so many guardrails, right? And we are utilizing this technology in many senses that financial institutions are now utilizing. So, for example, on the cybersecurity side, we have invested very heavily. We have invested, today we have more than 100 AI models just doing anti-fraud scanning. And last year alone, we helped our users avoided close to 7 billion in terms of potential scams, right? More than 5.4 million users, close to 7 billion in potential scams. Because using all this new technology, we have the ability to detect that. And when our users want to transfer funds, we want them, are you sure about this? Who are you trying to? So those are things that as a responsible entity we do.
On this point, I have a rather philosophical question to follow up, right? If you look at money, in the entire human time, in the last 5,000 years of our history, we always needed someone who we trusted, right? Some kind of king, some kind of temple, or a bank, or a government, or something in the middle there where we trusted, right? Crypto, for the first time, is where we all are coming together and we are like, we don't trust someone, we trust math. We trust some code or some math formula, right? So are we moving away from trusting an individual and outsourcing our, outsourcing betrayal to a form of math or a form of code?
No, so what you say is not true. So in the very early days with barter trade, right, the transfer of value is different, right? And if you remember, if I bring you back 16 years, how Bitcoin manifesto came about was really loss of faith, not of the central authority, but of the centralized platforms, the Lehman Brothers collapse, etc.